Hi, everybody. My name is Jordan Arnold, and the question that I had for my research that I conducted was how the news organizations convey the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay. So, just a brief overview of the Black Lives Matter movement itself. It started in 2013 on Twitter from a shooting of a young man by the name of Trayvon Martin. He had a hood on, an Arizona bottle, some Skittles. He was walking down the street. And a police officer by the name of George Zimmerman, he wrongfully shot him. He didn't do anything. He was innocent. And it ultimately had something to do with race. So, three women took it upon themselves to start a hashtag on Twitter, which was known as hashtag Black Lives Matter, to bring awareness and importance to the situation itself. So, for me personally, being an African American woman, I wanted to see how African Americans were portrayed in the news due to this issue. I've heard a lot of things about us being wrongfully portrayed, so I actually wanted to take a look deeper into that to see if there was some research or some statistics done that provided a straight yes or no answer to this issue. So, specifically, like I said, I wanted to look at the portrayal of African Americans in the media. So, on my left, your right, possibly, you can see this image of two different news articles about men who committed similar crimes. They were different ethnicities, and you can see how the pictures of the Caucasian men are more scholarly looking, and the men and the African American men on the right, they are just mug shots. And there's another image on the side, just a cartoon image. It has some humor to it, but it still stresses the same importance of the image on the side of it. Okay, so in one of my research I conducted from Chloe Banks, she talked about Dictorium. And basically, Dictorium was defined as a rhetorical strategy of news organization, and it reiterates cultural norms of stranger sociability and restricts access to public spaces to certain individuals who do not perform or conform to these social codes that govern public places. And basically, she talks about how in the beginning, back in 2013, when the movement first started getting talked about in the news and stuff, that people were all for it, and everybody was saying they felt like it was a good idea, that people were advocating for a cause of this such. But as time went on, it seems like more of the articles that the news had, they focused more on the violence that took place, whereas instead of focusing and highlighting on the movement itself and the importance of the movement itself. So I felt like this was a really great point, and I like how she identified the strategy that these news people were using, because there are many different strategies to news people's madness, and I felt like this was a great point to point out a strategic effect, or strategic strategy, if you may, on how this movement was being conducted. So then there was another research article that I found, and it basically compared how the tabloids talked about the movement campaign and how the news talked about the movement and the campaign. So basically, the tabloid, which you can see at the bottom, most of them focused more on the violence that took place, the fightings that broke out, the looting that took place, instead of the importance of the movement itself. And up top, in this particular news article, you can see it's focusing on the looting that took place and the buildings that were being destroyed and everything. So this research showed us that more tabloids focused on the negative aspects, and news articles, they were 50-50. Some portrayed the campaign as being negative and just bringing about violence, and others talked about it bringing awareness and all of that good stuff. So, from all of my research together, it seemed like it was a mix. It wasn't necessarily saying, oh yeah, the news is just portraying African Americans as these criminals that just wanted to bring a campaign about so people can feel bad for them, da 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 this, da 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 that. And others were showing that the movement was brought about for important reasons. African Americans were advocating for what they thought were right. So this really just, from my research, it really just showed me that the news is something that is forever changing and forever still needs improvement, because this is not the only situation where race played a part and the news played on it. Hispanics go through the same thing. American Indians go through the same thing. So I feel like when it comes to news and reporting out on campaigns and movements that are going on, people need to keep in mind about keeping their biased opinions and their outlooks on people out of the question. And the goal should be to make everybody look the same in the media when they're presented, just like that picture I showed you guys of those African American men, their mug shots, and then the Caucasians they had on suits and stuff. How about just making everybody look one way, so this idea won't even come about of inequality when it comes to reporting in the news?